Hello and welcome to the second episode in a new podcast series that we've started here at Loud and Quiet magazine called Midnight Chats. This is our interview podcast that we do, and once every 2 weeks, either myself or Greg will be interviewing a different artist or someone involved in the music industry, and just having a kind of relaxed late night conversation with them, one-on-one. And we then post them online at midnight on a Thursday, on every other Thursday. So thank you to everyone who listened to our first episode a couple of weeks ago. That was with David Kumu from The Invisible, who's also a prolific songwriter and producer. If you've not checked that one out yet, please do. But thanks to everyone that did. We got a lot of great feedback, a lot of nice messages from people, and we felt like it was a good start to this new thing that we're doing. We're very new to podcasts. We're not really sure. We're still finding our feet with it a bit. We're not sure where it's going to necessarily go or lead to, but we are enjoying doing them. For this week's episode, I had a conversation with Channy from Minneapolis band Poliça, who I'm personally a big fan of. We've featured them on the cover of the magazine as well as inside the magazine. And that was actually the last time that I met Channy. That was back in 2013. So it was very nice to see her again. She came into our office earlier this week on Monday. And we had a good chat for about an hour or so about the band's new record, which is called United Crushers. That's coming out here in the UK on Memphis Industries on the 4th of March. And we spoke particularly about some of the themes on there. It's an overtly political record in places. It's also got a lot of kind of heartbreak on there. Channy's also just become a mother for a second time, so we talk about that and what that involves and the kind of fears around that. So it is quite a dense chat, I guess. This one, it's quite serious, but we do manage to end on a joke, and there's also two rather dramatic moments when a door slams in the background. There's also at some point a weird ghost noise, but we'll just put that down to it being midnight. But other than that, I will leave you with Channy, who speaks very eloquently about some of the problems facing America at the moment, and hopefully how those things can be fixed. So please do enjoy this episode 2 of Midnight Chats. So where do you stay when you come into town this time? Are you staying in?
We usually have stayed at the Shoreditch, the RE, right?
Oh, right next door.
We're staying at the Hoxton today for some reason. I'm not sure why.
That's a posher one. I think that's an upgrade.
Yeah, but I have an infant with me, so I'm not going to be like partying or anything.
Right, sure.
Won't be partaking in any of the joys of the Hoxton.
Sure. So yeah, that's your daughter's with you, is she?
I have a new one. Boy.
A new baby boy?
Yep.
Oh, wow. Congratulations. And how does touring with... I remember we did an interview with Peking Lights a while ago. A few years ago now, but they had their baby with them. And they were saying how they kind of just make it work, like going on tour with a baby. They just...
That's a good answer. You just make it work, yeah.
You just have to.
Yeah, you do. You want to work, and you usually need to work. And then... And unfortunately today, you have so many bags, because we kind of call him like the anti-roadie, because he's just got like so much crap and he doesn't help carry any of it. But I did try to keep it pretty small, but we left, I remembered all the baby stuff. I had all the baby stuff in the baby, but we left all our luggage at the hotel in Bristol. So now we've been like kind of tweeting out, hopefully maybe somebody would want to come to the show tonight for free if they brought our bags.
Have they
I haven't heard. Response? I haven't heard any responses, but the guys the rest of the band are kind of trying to help out with that. But okay. So sometimes things like that happen, but you have to just kind of roll with it. Sure. I guess.
And so So when it comes to stage time, are you? Because 4 months, that's super young.
Yeah.
So you're with he's with you until the moment. Do you literally pass him to somebody and say, right, I'm just going to go and do a show?
Pretty much. Sometimes it's not, like we played Berghain in Berlin. Not a good place for a baby.
No, that's not a place for a baby.
So he just stayed in the hotel with his dad.
Okay.
But sometimes he comes to the venues. But yeah, you just make it work. The time will, it'll pass fast, and pretty soon he'll be older, and they get older. So you always have to remind yourself of that.
Yeah, sure. So you played the BBC Festival yesterday, and then today. Is today kind of your first? Was that your first show?
Actually, for this record, our first show was Paris, and then Berlin, and then BBC Six last night, and London tonight. So yeah, it's funny to start out your first show in Paris because it's a calmer crowd. It's a more observatory crowd.
Is it a good-looking crowd? The French.
Yeah.
They're so cool.
They're so cool. So many beautiful people in Berlin too. And London, I think maybe in America, being an American, I think I still come to Europe and I'm like, wow, everybody's so beautiful. Because it's different. It's like when we played Night and Day, that festival. And, and I feel like an American festival, everyone's like in bikinis and like just like outlandish outfits.
Yeah.
Kind of a lack of class, maybe. It's like just part of it.
Okay.
But then we came to Night and Day and everybody was like really nice, tight jeans, nice coats.
Yeah.
Classy.
Because the London crowds are, they're good, but I get the feeling sometimes we're not very good at showing that we're into it. We kind of don't want to dance too much.
Sure. And I always like, I'm somebody that watches a show probably maybe with my hands crossed, or like I could be really loving it, but I'm maybe not going to dance. I might be more likely to just stand like other people, stand and watch and observe. And so I don't take that too hard. As long as I don't get heckled, that's kind of what you're going for, I guess. And even then, that's interesting, but I prefer not to. I know one time I brought up politics. I think it was like the American election in Nottingham. And they yelled back, keep to the music or something like that.
Oh, really? In Nottingham here?
Yeah.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
I'm surprised by that. We had the BAFTA awards here,
I saw that
our Oscars, as we keep on insisting it's being called. But if you ever see, a few jokes, if anyone makes a joke about politics and those kind of things, there's always this, makes the room really awkward. Everyone like, even if it's they're saying something that everyone agrees with in the room,
sure,
they feel like they can't laugh at it or like cheer that,
sure,
or whatever. It's kind of this tightrope of thinking, oh, we're all thinking that, but nobody wants to kind of say it. But I'm quite surprised that one of your shows that someone would, especially with with your band being your band, you'd think that they would maybe expect it a little bit, like,
yeah, I don't, maybe, yeah, because now every show I want to talk about Bernie Sanders, but I'm trying to keep myself off the campaign trail. But maybe people just want to like see the show. Somebody also yelled less auto-tune at that show too. It's I think this person might just be at the wrong show.
Yeah,
we use auto-tune here.
Although the new record has a noticeable less amount of auto-tune on it, doesn't it? What was the kind of it's still there a little bit,
but
it's definitely the cleanest your voice has sounded out of the 3 records. What was the kind of thinking behind that? Was it just that you fancied a change?
I think largely it was just fancying a change. And then the last song on the track, I actually just re-recorded that on GarageBand with, GarageBand auto-tune, because I think it really is just kind of like track by track what a song needs to me. And sometimes the reason why I use auto-tune is to kind of get it to marry the electronics a little bit more. Coming from a background in folk and bluegrass, I don't want to sound like I'm just like a folk singer over an electronic band. I wanted to be able to, for me it was such like a wild change from what I came from working on Give You the Ghost. I really wanted to be able to experiment with these electronics. And I think, when you're first starting, you're going to use a lot. And now I'm still using a lot of effects. I'm just using different ones because just my base of knowledge has changed,
Sure.
I've been introduced to different sounds. And finally getting to get to this point where I've been able to listen to 2 records that I've made with Poliça and say, it's still not how I want my voice to sound. I want it to sound how it does live, and I still want it to sound like myself, but I want it to be affected. I want to be able to use the effects as dynamics, and so just kind of as you are when you're creating stuff, just constantly sort of trying to reapproach and make it closer to what you imagine it should be in your head.
Yeah, sure.
And so, yeah, it's getting closer, but not quite there. But yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So the new album's called United Crushers.
Mm-hmm.
I really like the artwork for it. Is the artwork and the visual side of it something that is really important to you?
Yes,
to you guys?
Very important to me. I went to school for art, and art school dropout. I didn't finish, but it's something that I'm not super good at, but it's extremely important to me. We had the opportunity this time to take such a long time with this record compared to the last one, that to be thinking about videos even while you're recording the songs, like, oh yeah, let's do this kind of video for this, and also the artwork, like what kind of colors are coming out of this, what kind of imagery is popping up. It's one of the rewarding things about making a record, is to be able to work with an artist on making the visuals and the artwork for a record kind of like be the visual aspect of the music. I think that's kind of the point, is you're making like a book, and you want to find an illustrator that is kind of is able to tell your story.
And so in terms of you say that you kind of get to think like what kind of colors are coming out of this, what kind of themes, and what's going to essentially represent this record visually. In terms of the elements that are on the cover, and we'll put a picture of that, we'll put the cover up next to this podcast so people can actually look at this and see what we're talking about. But where do the I don't know if they're severed hands, but they're hands kind of around the edge. Where's that kind of motif come from within the...
Yeah, that's the wedding fingers cut off. So that's just sort of representing the topics of sort of like broken love, or kind of, and also the identity of relationships and being with somebody, and the identity of being attached to someone or unattached. And it's just, a lot of it is, Poliça is a band, but for me, it often begins as a kind of a conversation with just Ryan. And a lot of what I feel when the record's done is it's kind of me and Ryan. It's kind of a representation of kind of like us talking back and forth to each other.
And you were saying that because you've had a bit more time to work on this record than, say, the second record, it enabled you to kind of think about, consider the videos as well, and the videos and the artwork and the visual side of things a bit more. So the video for Wedding that has recently come out on the internet, which is a great video, is that something like, did you just to explain to anyone listening that's not seen it yet, it's like a episode of Sesame Street in the sense of the puppetry's like got a Sesame Street kind of feel to it, but then the imagery of the song is essentially about police brutality, and it makes for a really striking and very well made video. Like the production value of it is great. How long ago did that come about, the idea of that video?
Yeah, it came about after the song was done, and wanting to make, how do you want to make something that people watch that deals with a heavy subject matter in a way that is different than just kind of like a soapbox preaching at people. And especially because I have kids, and that song is kind of coming from a place of, feeling insane and kind of hopeless about the amount of police shootings that we have in America, and how many Black men especially have been killed, and how So coming from a place of, like, in my generation, I learned thousands of things from Sesame Street. And there was this particular video series where they, like, teach you how to make a crayon, and be from, from the wax in the factory, it'd go all the way until the kid has the crayon box. And I love those videos. I love the how do things work kind of videos on Sesame Street. And so doing that, taking that idea and with the puppets, using puppetry and highlighting certain ideas so that we're speaking to kids about something heavy that hopefully will still be impactful and not made fun of, but will, we'll be able to speak to them and they can learn something from it. And so kind of some of the main ideas were like a cop is not a warrior, a cop is not a soldier, and changing the way we've been taught or kind of bred to think like that we should fear police, but in fact they're supposed to be servants of peace and protectors of the people. And it shouldn't be something that you have to teach your kids to be terrified of, not afraid of, or that they might get killed. And then how do you raise up people and kids who are protesters and activists who'll stand up for people that are oppressed when, like, every protest is met with tanks and machine guns and pepper spray and then this idea of kind of the bad news monster. In the video, there's this monster, this puppet called the bad news monster, and that just kind of represents too, like, how the media has taken over. It's kind of doesn't tell the news as it is anymore. It has its own slant on it always, so that peaceful protesters turn into like thugs. And in America, like if it's Black people protesting, they're always thugs and violent. And right. Then you have in Oregon where there was like these white militias who were like protesting the use of their land by the federal government, and they were like called just like protesters occupying.
Okay.
So
right.
there's just like a constant difference in the way the media portrays Black and white people. Of course I play that video for my daughter, and I don't know, I mean, there's a little boy in the video who we asked him stuff about the police, and
is he the boy that talks about the handcuffs?
Yeah, about the handcuffs. I feel like until you're like 4 or 5, you can get a child to answer a question unabashedly or kind of without boundaries, because they haven't been through school yet. They haven't kind of learned to be conscious of their self. They don't have they're not held back by much. So it's really interesting to talk to like 3 and 4 year olds about their, about how they see the world. And it was a chance to actually use some of the people from the last shot of the video is this graffiti tag by actually one of the original members from United Crushers, which is the graffiti crew that the record's named after. And it's just this phrase that we will live in your world, but you will die in ours. And taking this idea that if we can keep on raising up, because certainly I'm just kind of going off on a tangent here. Right. This is a late night talk, right? Certainly, like, even I just had a baby, and I, even every day while I was pregnant, I'm like, what the hell have I done? Why would I bring someone into this world? Not to get too goth or like dramatic, but it's just a lot of shit happening, and you just feel like you can't possibly protect somebody from it. You can't really, you can pour a lot of love into somebody, but a lot of life is based on luck and where you're born and what the color of your skin is, and how can you I want to raise up a child who is aware that uses because my son's gonna have blue eyes and light colored hair, so we won't have to deal with at least probably for right now, we won't have to deal with the amount of police brutality and kind of discrimination that a Black boy would have to. But I want to teach him to be aware of his place in the world and to speak up for people that are oppressed, and to not get comfortable in his white privilege. But so, you kind of second guess like why you've brought someone into this world. But in the hope that you can keep on raising up kids that will fight for a better world and make a better place.
And how old is your daughter now?
She's 8.
She's 8.
She's 7.
She's 7.
She just turned 7. Oh my god.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll edit that.
Yeah,
so
okay.
You
Yeah.
got that straight away.
Just turned 7.
So when you showed her the video, what did she make?
Well, she was in the video.
Is she one of the girls dancing?
Yeah,
because that's my favourite bit of the video when they did a little dance routine.
Yeah, she's the one who puts the bandana on her face. She's got curly brown hair. Yeah, I don't know. She didn't really have much to say about the video exactly, but she thought it was fun, like making a video, I guess. She thought it was fun making the video, and I think, and she's kind of a quiet kid, but she has a lot to say about just kind of in the town that I'm in Minneapolis. There've been like weekly protests against the police and close to our neighborhood, and streets, highways have been shut down. So that's been a kind of a constant conversation in our house, just talking about why that's going on. And
so the problems with the police, they're not by any means stopping. They're not.
There's been, yeah. I mean, it's been going on for so long. You could say it's been going on since like slavery, But there have been some exciting is maybe not the right word, but some good changes in the right direction. A police officer was just charged with murder in New York, which really like very rarely happens, if ever. So I think once there has to be some changes in policing and just sort of like the culture of policing, so that it isn't a militarized position, and then there has to be repercussions for people that overuse force. There's just not a culture of anyone ever getting charged with murder or getting disciplined, so there's not really a reason not to do it.
I can't really imagine how it must feel to live in America with this kind of how frustrating that must be. That especially the gun thing, I think, is a thing that here in the UK we cannot get our heads around at all. And the kind of the attacks that happen in schools and they seem to be so frequent now. And it just seems like I can't. It's really frustrating looking at it from the outside, and we don't live there. We don't have to kind of live there. So for people in America who are not kind of actively supporting gun rights and that kind of, I can't imagine what it must be like to live there. Does that kind of tension feel like palpable, like around town? Because you live in Minneapolis is a Democratic. You're the
yes, it's
you're
more
the left.
liberal. Yeah, it's a more liberal town. Yeah,
sure. But do you still does it still feel tense, like living there? Sure.
Well, yeah, the police unions are even very upset about having to wear cameras around their necks in Minneapolis. Right now it feels very divisive in America. Most of people, I feel like Minneapolis is maybe a town that might get a majority of votes for Bernie Sanders, for someone like Bernie Sanders. But outside of Minneapolis, it's very conservative.
Sure.
In the state of Minnesota.
Okay.
It might be like, there might be a chance that Trump could possibly get a vote outside in the suburbs of Minnesota.
I wanted to ask you about Trump because that's another thing that here we been watching a lot from, it's been frontline news, front page news here as much as it has in the States. And does it feel that I think from a British point of view, we kind of look at Donald Trump as obviously he's completely insane. And we think, well, I think we've probably looked at it as like, this is funny, isn't it? What's he said today that's so outrageous and stupid. But what is the reality of it like back home? Is there a sense that there is an actual threat that he could at least become the kind of Republican candidate? And once that happens, like it kind of feels like everyone thought, oh, this is a joke. But the joke seems to have been going on a bit too long now, and it seems to be getting a bit scary.
Yes.
That it's gone this far.
Yes.
And I try to. There's been documentaries on here about Trump, and there's been a lot of kind of stories, And I've got to a point now where I'm just ignoring them because it's like the school bully, you know, you just, if you ignore them, they might go away.
Yes.
But that's the one thing he doesn't want, you know, the press is essentially what is fueling this.
He's like the Kanye of politics.
Exactly, exactly. But what is it like back home? Does it feel like that?
Yeah, it's it is very scary. I think it's good to not turn a blind eye to the other Republican candidates like Marco Rubio and Ted Cruz, because although Trump is the louder and more obnoxious persona, I feel like those two have even more dangerous policies.
Yeah,
could
sure.
be.
And I suppose part of the problem that could happen is that Donald Trump being so overblown and ridiculous makes the others look completely sane, and all of their policies look fine.
Yes. But the fact that there's there's a percentage of people that's over 5% in America that will vote for a person like Donald Trump who has zero governing experience, and that we've gotten to a point in America where that's a positive thing for people. People are looking for someone that has zero experience. Yeah. What does that tell you about the state of someone's sort of like social studies background, you know? And then, just kind of what having a candidate that is so Islamophobic and xenophobic would do for our country and our, foreign affairs relations. And just in so many ways. The thing about it, though, is if the Republican Party is a minority in America and they vote, but if we can get everyone to vote in America, I think right now it's like a ridiculous number, like only 35% or 40% of the population even votes.
Right, okay.
If everyone would vote that could, Trump will not win. So that's what I'm really working towards is, although I think everyone should vote for Bernie Sanders, I'm not going to push my political agenda on people, but just getting people registered to vote and fighting against. We also have a problem with like the government rerouting like voting districts to make it harder for Black and minority voters to get to polling stations, and changing laws so like you have to have a specific ID to vote. So if we can fight that and just try to get as many people registered and to the polling stations on election day, I don't think there'll be a chance in hell for Trump to win. It's a really insane time. It's going to be an interesting thing to watch, just even while we're on tour and in all these different states. And
it seems to be moving so quickly, this story as well. Like even by the time, so we'll probably put this podcast online this week, but by then anything could have happened. Like he could have said anything, you know.
Yeah.
It's crazy, isn't it? Do you think that that Bernie Sanders and even Hillary Clinton, actually, do you think either of them would have a chance of election if they, because you know those two alone, you kind of look at it and think, wow, this is like really exciting that you know that candidate's either going to be a socialist or a woman, and that's what a great positive thing. But would it go any further than that? Do you think could you see the American people as a whole kind of voting in either of those people, really?
I think Hillary Clinton has a chance. I wish I want to believe that Bernie Sanders has a chance, but really almost like every young person from 18 to 35 would have to vote. And for him to win, I feel like it would take people feeling like it's really important, and it really, really is. If we can change the Democratic Party back to like a FDR kind of democracy, where if people don't get stuck on the idea of socialism, because
that's going to be the thing that the detractors go for on him, isn't it? That's going to be
that's where the Republican Party will go against him. But Social Security is socialism, and we love that. It blows my mind that people don't want free healthcare.
Yeah, this is something that
you could think through it. The mathematics of taxes. If we tax the wealthy who aren't getting taxed right now, and corporations, and even just a little bit more taxes on the middle class, you could have free healthcare. I pay like $600 a month in healthcare.
That's nuts.
That's nuts. I mean, and then that's a really like low services, or kind of like a shitty version of healthcare. People vote against themselves. It's very odd.
Does that simply come back to kind of an ingrained and historic kind of notion of kind of the American dream, essentially, and the idea of that you can't, that, you know, that it's the land of opportunity, and essentially even somebody who currently doesn't have anything, they could one day be a millionaire, and at that point they don't want to be giving that money away.
Sure.
So that kind of already, they're willing to say, well, I'm not going to vote for that because one day I might be really rich, and I don't want to share that money. That's
insanity, you know, like, and such a small amount of money, and that you would feel that the burden should be all on the people making less money. And then maybe it's also like having the history of not wanting the government involved in your affairs. Yeah, I don't know. It's a really fascinating time, but it's also really terrifying.
Yeah, I can imagine. I can imagine. So. Is the new record essentially you getting to a point where you think, I've got to say this stuff that we need our musicians to?
I just feel like I can't not say anything about it, and I think it's just like in general. To be completely sincere, there's lots of other topics on this record. Probably 90% of it is about love and kind of, you know, and reflections on myself. But in whole, just feeling like even in this conversation, how much time we've spent of me just ranting about politics, it's hard for me to think about other things because it seems like such a crucial time. You know, it's easy not to say anything. It's easy to just maybe kind of like be kind of, as an artist, be like kind of an escape, a place where people can escape from all this stuff. But the artists that I almost feel like you would really regret it, and I more admire artists like, you know, someone like Nina Simone, who sang tons of love songs, but she also sang a lot of really like poignant political songs. And she was a whole person, and I feel like if you're a whole person, which is what I always want to try to be, is someone that is neither not political or political. It's just like you are alive and feeling the world around you.
So in terms of because as you say, there are a lot of other things on this record. It's not purely a...
Yes, so I don't want to like fool anyone to being like, I only speak of the most important things. There's a lot of stuff just about love and just kind of my own feelings of failure and loneliness. And that's, you know, kind of constant theme in all Poliça records.
Yeah. Well, when we spoke in 2013, you mentioned how you saw the first record, Give You the Ghost, as a kind of, that was like a sad kind of I'm shit record. The second record was like you described it as your armor record, and it was like how you felt when you listened to hip hop records. It was kind of more like fuck you kind of thing, but it was still a sad breakup record essentially. Where does this one fit in terms of those two?
I think this one, I can't really figure it out quite objectively because I feel like I'm still kind of inside of it, but it is the one that I wrote being most settled. I think of this record as like the record I wrote after I moved out of my parents' house. And you know, I'm turning 35 next week, but because of my touring and everything, I was living at home with my parents and my daughter for about 5 years. So this record, before I wrote this record, moved out, got kind of settled, and I wasn't on tour as much. And you know, when you kind of settle a little bit, I feel like I can look outside of myself more. Where I started every single song was trying to write a song about someone besides myself. And they all kind of circled back to me. You know, I really like that. I like the way that Adele always, I would never compare myself to Adele. I'm not anywhere near that. But I like the idea of how she just names her every record like after her age. It's just like, this is just me right now.
Yeah, that's great, isn't it?
And I feel like that's kind of how it is for me too, in the sense that this is me.
Sure.
And this is the band right now too.
Sure. You also said back then that that you think that perhaps every album you write will be a breakup album in some way. Do you still feel like that? Is there a bit of breakup in this one?
This one might be kind of how Some Way is sort of like a saying goodbye a little bit to myself, kind of a breakup with myself, who I was before I got pregnant, because kind of I wanted to get pregnant, but after I had my daughter 7 years ago, I've had like time to kind of Poliça. The beginning of Poliça was really me. Like, my daughter was 2. I was finally able to go out on the road again. I was able to like kind of find my identity outside of motherhood. And now I'm kind of had to break up with that self again and go back into the thick of motherhood again.
Yeah.
And so I think that there's that kind of breaking up with my kind of freedom a bit. Reaping tons of rewards, but it's a little bit difficult.
Yeah.
So, and I'll be able to come out on the other side again. But I'd say that's kind of the biggest thing that I had to let go of in this time of my life, was the person that I had found, which I feel like I kind of found myself after I had my daughter, and it was a really good gift. And with this boy, it's another reworking of myself.
Do you find, obviously when you're on tour, it's, you're mostly active at night. This podcast is of course called Midnight Chats. Are you a nighttime person anyway, even when you're not on tour?
I'm kind of usually to bed by midnight. I'm not a super night owl. No, I'm more of a morning person. That's probably just from being a mother, I guess.
Yeah.
But during the writing period, it's Ryan's a night person, and so then my schedule changes, and I think the best writing happens at night, in the middle of the night, late at night. So I kind of go through different I'm trying to think of the right word, but it's like I have different areas of time where I have to kind of go to the night, because that's where I find more I write better at night, I guess. So yeah,
I always find that I like to listen to music more at night. I think. I mean, we listen to music all day long because we get sent so much stuff, but there's something about listening to music at night that I think is, and you can only listen to certain types of things at night, obviously, but there is something about that. Poliça records are good for listening to at night, especially the first one, because it's got that downbeat kind of.
Yeah. And that one, that's like it's like written, from the hours of 2 to 4 in the morning mostly. So, I mean that record was really, that was like a night. Yeah, it sounds like the night to me. It sounds like that time. It sounds like hot, and
it's got a nocturnal kind of thing. The new record is, even though it does have these, as we already said, these kind of weighty issues on it, as well as many others. But it also has probably your most kind of quote unquote pop tracks on it. Some ways, for example, it's like that's a huge pop hook on it. Musically, I know you were a big fan of Aaliyah, and that kind of sound. What do you listen to at the moment? Do you listen to pop music?
I've just listened to a few songs off the new Rihanna record, and I just liked the artwork for it, I guess, and I thought the song with her and SZA was really good. I really like SZA a lot, but I don't on the whole listen to a lot of pop music. I love the new Beyonce single though.
Have you heard what Kanye said today? Have you heard Kanye's latest outburst? We were talking about Trump's latest outburst. The Kanye West story is a bit like the Trump one in the sense that it moves so quickly. Yeah. Tomorrow he could be on the move. I feel like
everyone keeps on covering it.
Yeah.
It seems like something that maybe someone should just... Everybody asked Zuckerberg for money to invest in his ideas.
Yeah. He's reasoned, you'll give money to build a school in Africa, but you won't give me money to make a record. Which is great Kanye West logic to think that that's a great idea. But he and he's also taken his record down off of. It went on sale, but he's taken it down again.
Taking it down, and then I personally am kind of annoyed with the whole title thing. I mean, I do, subscribe to Apple Music, so I guess it's just something like Apple Music. It's just another thing to subscribe to. But this exclusivity of you know, to like, can I just go to a record store and buy the record?
Yeah.
For Christ's sake. But yeah, I haven't, I'm curious, you know, like Alan Kingdom's an artist from Minneapolis, he's such a good rapper. He's done stuff on this new Kanye record. I'm curious to hear it, but you do get kind of this like just tired of the Bill Cosby comment. He said Bill Cosby is innocent, you know, but I guess a lot of great artists have been kind of insane, and I mean also it's kind of insane in the pop world. Like, I guess that's why I think there's a lot of good things in pop, but I always kind of cringe when people, when like the best word to describe us is maybe like pop in some way or something, because pop always has this like bad connotation, mostly because you think of this guy, what's his name, that came out and said he used to write rhymes. He used to write all of Kanye's rhymes, his Rhyme Fest. So you have someone like Kanye who's like, people are writing his lyrics and then they're making beats for him. And I know he's in control of a lot of it, but like, I just want to listen to someone that wrote the lyrics, and the musicians that make the music are like, just the amount of the empires that people build to make a record where you have like 15 people listed as lyric writers. It becomes like a NBC comedy or something.
I don't really understand how that works.
Might be why it's so hard to put out a record for him.
So there we have it, ending on a little joke there at the expense of Kanye West. Thanks very much to Channy for coming along to our office to record this podcast this week. We will have a third episode up in 2 weeks' time. We've actually already recorded it, and as much as I could spoil that surprise, I don't think I will. But it's a good one. It's a very good one. And also another thank you that I have is for Ghost Poet, who has composed that creepy bit of music that is our theme tune. We asked him if he would write us a little song, and very kindly he said yes. So thank you to Ghost Poet for that. Please do subscribe on iTunes. That way it's just the easiest way for you to be alerted basically to when a new episode comes up, especially as we're going to be dropping them at midnight, when you might have better things to do than be looking at your phone or on our website. But wherever you're listening to it, if you're listening to it on Acast, or if you're listening to it on Facebook or YouTube, we put it up there as well. Wherever you're listening to it, please do drop us a line. Let us know, give us some pointers where as I say, we're very new to this. We might be doing this all wrong. Or certainly, maybe in your opinion, we are at least. So maybe there's someone that you think we should talk to for another Midnight Chat. Maybe there's some other people that we've featured in the magazine, and you think, hey, I'd like to hear a Midnight Chat with them. So yeah, do get in touch. But other than that, thanks once again to Channy and to Poliça for being this week's guest.